Hey, all my worthy viewers. Today I'm bringing to you a movie that's available for you to see right now. I think it's going to be a couple of bucks, or you can go watch it on HBO Max if you got that. It's called The Long Good Friday, and here with me to chat about it is my good friend, Cody House. Take it away, Cody.
Hey, thank you, Justin. Thanks for having me. Yes, The Long Good Friday is a considered a British crime classic. It's also streaming on Criterion Channel for those of you that have that service, which HBO Max has a lot of those titles as well. It stars the late great Bob Hoskins as sort of a crime boss in London who's trying to go legitimate, but a bunch of catastrophes keep happening and kind of undermining his control of the underworld of London.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins in sort of a role we haven't seen him in much.
Well,
The only time I remember him seeing him in a role kind of like this was the movie with Jet Li,
Unleashed or
Unleashed.
Danny, I think. Yeah. Well, I mean, he played a lot of, I guess for most people, we know him from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but he
Oh yeah.
played a lot of these kind of roles in British movies. Like, that's kind of more his screen persona was more of a tough guy, even though he was a very small man.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say this is I wouldn't want to mess with him during this movie. Is he British?
Yes, Bob
Oh,
Hoskins was British actor. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Also, this is the first. What is it? This the on-screen debut of Helen Mirren. I
I
mean,
don't I don't know if it's her first on-screen debut, but it's the earliest movie I've seen her in because the other one I've seen her in is in Excalibur. And when we were watching it, told my wife, I was like, "Hey, do you know who that is?" And she was looking, and she's like, "Oh, yeah, that's uh." Like she was like she could tell it was someone she knew, but because she didn't look like what we kind of mostly Americans know Helen Mirren from, because she's blonde in this, because I think she's like in her 30s here.
Yeah.
Yeah, she plays, I guess, Bob Hoskins' like girlfriend or trophy significant other or whatever. She's supposed to like smooth talk these American gangsters that are coming over trying to like get this deal together.
Yeah. It was tough. She's kind of just there for a lot of it, but she does have some pretty powerful scenes, and it seems like she can control some of the antics going on. She the girlfriend to a mob boss, I guess, has some sort of pull and leverage somewhere. Uh, but yeah, this it's just an interesting film because there's nobody really to root for. I mean, how could we root for Bob Hoskins, who's a bad guy? You know, so I found it difficult to latch on to anybody, and the dialogue in this scene in this movie was, I don't know, it carried on a lot. There was a lot of dialogue and monologue that just was like, so people are backstabbing me, and now you're going to have to pay the price, or I need to know, who told you, and blah blah blah, and it just would go on forever. And then there's a crazy scene where Bob Hoskins kills somebody on a boat, and then afterwards he's showering, which by the way I thought was the end of the movie. And then
You thought that was the end because
I thought
he's
that was
like, all right,
good. Well, because the thing about it is, like, people around him who he knows and loves are actually dying, and so like the
yeah.
person that he ends up killing is actually somebody who's, he kind of knows and loves. So it was like, oh, okay, But after that, they have this 8-minute shower scene with Bob Hoskins rinsing off and like sudsing up because he's so despicable. He's disgusted with what he's done, and with the horrible '80s music playing over it, it was very laughable. But I will say the cinematography in this movie is pretty impressive. The stuff in the meat house was amazing, like very much memorable. You know, like they hang some baddies on meat hooks upside down, and it seemed like the cinematographer, the DP, got on the hook and was hung upside down and just went along with them, and it was just really, really creative and inventive. And I thought that was really well done. Yeah, what would you rate this movie?
Well, I liked it a little bit more than you just because of Bob Hoskins' ability as an actor and how he commands the screen and how, like, looking at him, you wouldn't think he'd be this physically intimidating person, but he's like, everyone is intimidated by him except for the who we soon find out are trying to undermine him. But I think his presence makes this movie watchable. And of course, yeah, it does look great. I'm wondering if the movie looked great to begin with, or like Criterion just did a really great restoration of this movie to put it on the streaming services. Yeah, I don't know if this was Helen Mirren's screen debut, but it is a certain 00 agent's screen debut.
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan. It wasn't that exciting. I mean, what a good-looking guy. Like, he just is young, and because as he got older, I didn't really see the appeal. But when he was younger, I'm like, oh, he's a good-looking dude. He
Yeah, and
didn't
I
say
don't.
much.
No, I think he says like maybe one word of dialogue. But what's funny is like his opening scene of how like he goes to kill someone because he's a hitman in this is kind of similar to a scene in GoldenEye.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if that like helped him get the role. Like somebody saw him and was like, "Hey, remember Pierce Brosnan? Like, well, let's try him out."
Well,
Uh,
side tangent. What actually kind of got him the role was his late wife was in For Your Eyes Only, and he went to visit her on the set, and Albert Broccoli and some other people were looking at him, and they're like, "That guy kind of looks like he could be a good James Bond."
yeah, yeah. He also was holding the PP silencer at the end, like as which by the way, that it was like 4 minutes of driving around, and I'm like, okay, there's no credits, nothing.
Boom, it's over.
And then yeah,
I would give this a 4 out of 5 for me, just because of the acting and the just how the film looks. And yeah, I would preface this. I'm not gonna give a complete spoiler, but if you're used to more modern movie endings, you're probably not gonna like the ending of this movie because it doesn't really give you any closure, but you kind of know what's gonna happen.
yeah,
It's just a
I didn't
movie
mind
that
that.
ends. It's just a
Yeah.
movie that ends. I kind of like when movies are just like mic drop, it's over.
Well, right. It gives the audience sort of a way to think for themselves, like what, if there was a long Good Friday too, I mean, who knows? We don't know. But I didn't mind that at all. But this is very old school styling of movie. Dialogue that, it seems sort of, meaningless, but, and then, yeah, you don't want to root for the main person, the main character. You don't really care what happens to him. But no, it's a very solid film, and there's Bob Hoskins is definitely a great actor, and really proved it in this movie. He got nominated for a BAFTA. Um, but yeah, so your rating on my scale is like a WTV and a half, and then I'm gonna give it a WTV or a WT. It was fine. Um, I just again I needed something more to grab onto, but yeah, very powerful performance from Hoskins, and I mean that alone is worth watching it for. So definitely check that out. I like to watch movies that I've never seen before here at Worth Review Movies and talk about them because it gives you uh, your first take on a movie is definitely different than your second most of the time. But what made you want to see this one?
Well, I do like Bob Hoskins as an actor. I like Helen Mirren, and of course, I'm a James Bond fan. So knowing this is like Pierce Brosnan's first movie debut, so I had heard about this movie for a long, long time as being like regarded as like one of the best British crime movies. And it was just one of those I just never got around to actually sitting down and watching. And I knew the title of the movie was called A Long Good Friday, but I did not know till just a couple of weeks ago that it actually takes place on Good Friday. So, so I was like, okay, it's streaming. Let me check this out. I've never watched it before.
And it is a long day for
It is a long
sure.
day. I think it actually rolls into a Saturday, and
Mm.
so it's the whole Easter weekend. I don't want his Easter weekend.
Oh no. Do you know this director's other works?
I do not. I do not know what else this director did,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
if he did anything else that is regarded as well as this film. Um, I'm gonna recommend something for you that's similar to this, but you might like a little bit more. That's a Neil Jordan film with Bob Hoskins, and he got Oscar nominated for it because there's a little bit more of a you can pull for somebody, and it's called Mona Lisa.
oh, okay.
Um,
Mona Lisa.
And it's not
Oh,
exactly where you think the story's gonna go, but there is at least someone where you're like at least probably more rooting for them than just bad people being bad.
okay. Yeah, I have a Bob Hoskins to recommend too. Super popular movie right now, the Super Mario Brothers. Well, there was a
All
movie
right,
that
yeah.
came out with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo called the Super Mario Brothers. And yeah, it's not great, but boy, um, definitely different than the animated one. The Long Good Friday is sitting at 7.6 on IMDb. Doesn't have box office budget.
I
Probably
wonder if
because
it
it came out.
yeah, I was wondering like what its US release was, because I know it's like 1980, I think is the year it
Yeah.
said it came out.
Mhm.
I wonder
Yeah.
like what kind of US release it got.
97% of Rotten Tomatoes, 89% audience score. And
Okay.
you and I both enjoyed it. One enjoyed a little bit more than the other, but it's definitely an enjoyable movie. So go check out The Long Good Friday because it's worth the view. Cody, where can they find you, bud? Tell us
You can
about your new
find
venture.
Oh yes, so I've been doing director series on the Video Store Rejects podcast that I do, but
I've been on
we're
it.
gonna we're going to reshape it to where I have a specific co-host for each director we're covering or theme. And the first season, we're going to be delving into David Lynch. I have a recurring guest. Kevin Polly is going to be my co-host for that. We're going to go through the entire series of Twin Peaks and then the entire filmography of David Lynch.
Awesome. All right, is there a movie that you're looking forward to from him that you haven't seen or one that you want to revisit?
Well, the only one I haven't seen is Inland Empire, which I'm definitely want to check out. I think it just recently got a Criterion disc, like Blu-ray and 4K, a couple of months ago. So yeah, that's the only one of his I haven't seen before. Um, as far as one to revisit, I know probably Mulholland Drive because I know that's a lot of people consider that his best movie. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'd like to check it out again as a more of an adult because I don't think I've seen it since it came out.
Yeah. Um, Also, Dune,
Yeah, he
right?
did the 1984 Dune.
Wild at Heart. These are some I haven't seen. I have seen the old Dune. I haven't seen Eraserhead, Blue
That's very
Velvet,
weird.
Lost Highway. But he is in and has one of the greatest lines of a movie from last year in The Fablemans, which
Yes, he's phenomenal in that.
does that count? Do you have to watch that? And are you going to talk about that?
I mean, maybe now we do. I mean, I wouldn't mind watching the Fablemans again, but he's just in it. He's not directing it. It's a
I
different
know.
director.
Best part of the movie, though. Boy, do I love it. Very cool. And yeah, Video Store Rejects. You're at the Film Nerd
Film
85.
Nerd 85 on Twitter and Letterboxd, and then Video Store Rejects. We have a YouTube page and a Facebook page, so
Go
check
it
us
out.
out there. We're going to be talking Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness tonight because that was the horror film everyone that got the majority vote to cover this month, and because Evil Dead Rise is in theaters right now.
Yeah, comes out tonight. Very cool. Well, go check out that. Go check out The Long Good Friday as well if you have HBO Max, Criterion, or a few bucks to rent it, because we both think that it's worth the view. Thank you so much, Cody, for joining me, and we're going to go talk about another movie that you'll be seeing Cody and I chat about soon. Until then, thank you guys for viewing, and we'll talk to you soon. Go see The Long Good Friday. It's worth the view.